A fireside chat and players quit MTG Finance. What happens if MTG Finance fully collapses? Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thanks again for being here with me on the channel today. A big shout out and of course a thank you to each and every one of you who's been watching my videos, tuning in each and every day, hitting the thumbs up, leaving a comment, and of course subscribing to the channel. We're only 380 subscribers away from finally hitting 15,000 subscribers. Thanks again, everyone, for making this journey so epic and appealing. Of course, a shout out and thank you to all the patrons out there who are supporting this channel and allowing me to make this content each and every day. It all comes down to a conversation, a fireside chat, to answer some questions from Hasbro and Wizards to the shareholders and the player base of Magic the Gathering. It's going to come down to that conversation, December 8th, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it will give us a very good indicator of what's about to happen. But regardless of what gets said, some players will not be satisfied. This is just another nail in the coffin telling them to quit. I got a whole bunch of emails from two sides of a conversation yesterday. One of them saying, did you see all the remastered Dominaria cards coming out? Look at all this value being put in. We've got Vampiric Tutor. Oh, we've got some amazing cards like Time Stretch coming back. This is going to be great. We've got Elvish Spirit Guide. It's going to be epic, Moxman. And you know what I got on the other side of those emails? I just saw my collection get devalued another 20 to 30%, maybe even 50%, maybe even further, depending how much that product gets opened. I'm done. I'm walking away. I'm taking my stuff to an LGS and I'm done. I can proxy these cards and call it a day and still play with my friends. This is where we're at. You have players who want the game to be a little bit cheaper. You have players who want to at least retain some of the value from the cards they have paid into over the decades, just like players feel on the reserve list. By not reprinting the value that you've spent, this is the mistake. This is the issue at hand, and I don't know what the answer is. There is no easy solution. If there was, they already would have done it. Do I think Wizards reprints a little too quickly for some cards? Yes, I do. And they slow it down for others, and they don't do enough R&D to bring us new cards and new mechanics to make the game ever expanding. Sometimes they hit these bottle loops where they just reprint the same types of cards, Force of Will, Vampiric Tutor, and it just kills off value hand over fist. Fetch lands, anyone? This is where we're price sensitive people. There's a lot of us who care about this. And I look at it and I know that that chat's happening. I'm probably there right now. When you guys are watching this, depending on when you're watching it, I was probably there listening to that chat. And I look at these modern cards going down and I think of the reserve list and the problems that happened there with all the people who invested money into that collectible. And that's where they're at. And I'm afraid of an overcorrection just to please the shareholders, investors. I'm afraid of an overcorrection that only appeals to the players. There has to be a middle ground somewhere in there, or the entire finance community of MTG could just collapse. It really could happen. It's kind of a scary thought to think if all of a sudden everything just kind of starts collapsing, but already you can see it with modern cards dropping, and you'll see that in tomorrow's video. I'll have a double up video day probably tomorrow, and you'll see that in the card watch video tomorrow. We'll talk about some of these cards going down. But today, when we're talking about reserve list cards, I am thinking of this back as when it happened with Chronicles. And I was around back then playing the game. I was young though. I didn't really equate an Arcady Sabbath from Legends versus Arcady Sabbath, from Chronicles. I didn't really care as a kid. I just wanted to play with it. But from the investor standpoint of guys who spent $50, $100 buying that card back then, they were really mad. They just lost a ton of money. And that's where we're at. It's almost that same kind of parallel that now has to be a fine line walked by Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, and decided upon by the player base who actually spends their money buying this game and playing and enjoying and really getting behind it. So regardless of which situation you're in, it's not going to be easy. Either you're going to lose some more value, some cards get cheaper, but if Wizards walks away from the game, if Hasbro walks away, they've done it before. Remember the Transformers TCG a couple of years ago? Had a lot of success, tournaments were going, it was just starting to find a foothold, but they didn't figure there was enough profit, so they killed it off. Magic could get killed off. Sure, we'd have third-party support just like Transformers, but it's an ever-dwindling player base when things like that happen. Remember that. Other card games could supersede it in the future, and that's kind of freaky to me too at my age. So, we're going to go over this. We're going to take a second. I'm going to show you some reserve list cards, show you where they're going, but also let's talk about where some of these cards have been and what the evolution of the game has done to some of these cards. Here we have Lake of the Dead from Alliances. Look at that market price only today, and that's $89.86 US from the high of $300. So it's like 1/3 of the price it used to be. But back in 2013, this was a $5 card available to anybody in Magic who wanted to get their hands on it. And of course, we've seen an increase in price and a bit of a haphazard up and down the way the market is right now. But it's been as high as $300. And the card has uses, it's fun, epic artwork, like iconic stuff you just can't pass up on. But when you compare this to anything modern, a Ragavan, you give me the Wandering Emperor, they're going to keep getting reprinted and they'll never be able to attain these levels of value. They'll never be able to because Wizards will use it as a way of gauging their own market response to cards getting reprinted. And that's not fair for the players. For players who bought the card at 30 and now are only getting a card worth $5 a couple of reprints from now. And holding no long-term value to continue to see growth in a card like that they put their money behind. Volrosh Stronghold. From Stronghold. This card has been as high as $200. It's down to $97.81. A great bargain in anyone's eye for what this card can do for commander decks. It is an amazing card to have around. They don't really have anything that comparable by today's standard inside of a land that doesn't have major drawbacks. But why is that? There's not like there isn't ways around this card or different variations you could create. And if you limited the reprint status of a card like that, it would be able to retain some value. To me, it almost seems like Wizards has got to give us a reprint schedule. A certain time frame for certain block cards to be allowed to be reprinted. To make sure players have an understanding of where the value could lie in the cards they are buying. If they're buying at a pre-release price or an early pricing and spending $50, $60, $70. And yes, you can say that's what the market will bear. That's what players are willing to spend. But they're willing to spend it because they believe there's a certain value to that card. And if the card gets reprinted the very next year, which we saw with some newer cards, the value goes down to zero. It gets killed, it's done, but you spend $50 on that card. And I think that's where a lot of players now are getting fed up. When I look at City of Shadows here, and I bought that card as low as $15, $20. You guys know it if you've been on the channel for a while. And I still buy it now every month, and I'm loving the fact it's dropping off. The market price is $102.80. But you can find this card on TCG Player for $55. $55 free shipping on TCG Player for a moderate played copy. Guys, it's not the fact it's gone down in value, because I know it's not being reprinted. I know it's going to have value. I don't care about the market bouncing up and down that much for a card like this, but I do care about, say, an Oko style card or a Questing Beast that's worth $20, gets reprinted twice in 2 years and becomes a $2 card. And I lost 90% of my value that can never recuperate, unlike a City of Shadows that can go back up and bring me some later value when the card becomes more playable, more desirable. I mean, it's from the dark. It's a really old card. And there's nothing nowadays to stop Wizards from doing that. And that is what is affecting that modern market the way it is, unlike an older reserve list market. And that's why these cards do continue to have these up and downs, but overall hold value. And by the way, if you want to buy any of these cards, you can totally find them on TCG Player. And if you go to shop on TCG Player anyway, go ahead and use my affiliate link found in the description of all my videos. It does help the channel, gives me a kickback of like 3.5% and allows me to buy some cards too. I appreciate each and every one of you who takes the time to click that link. Thanks again for doing so. Keljoran Outpost, Alliances, been as high as almost $50. all the way down to $14.88. A very affordable card, great for a white commander deck. But again, when you compare it to Castle Aldarian from Throne of Eldraine, similar cards, similar mechanic, different casting costs, of course. And you look at those cards, and how do the prices affect each other? Because they've already kind of put those cards out there versus a card like the Outpost here that's never getting reprinted. And these are the differences that are just not standing, they're not meeting mustard in my eyes. Some card mechanics never come around. Like Hall of Gemstones here, the card's $15.33. Come down from a high of $50. 2 green, 1 other. During each player's upkeep, that player chooses a color, and until end of turn, each mana-producing land produces mana of the chosen color instead of the normal color. Talk about a great commander card. But we don't see cards like this anymore. Wizards has chosen a faster, quick-paced game. And that's fine if the game is cheap enough for players to enjoy because the cards aren't really supposed to have that much value. Then that's a fair trade-off. But when you start charging a premium price for a product, we expect there to be some kind of aftermarket value. And the reason I think we should expect that is because if you look at a game like Monopoly, created by Hasbro, or Risk, the board game, you notice the price is always the same, $19.99, $21.99, $22.99 from Walmart, wherever you're buying it from. Do you see decks of Magic cards anymore for $22.99 for a fully playable game? No, you don't. Even though it's the same type of product. It's a card game. Let's look at our other card games like Uno. How much is that? $8.99. How about a playing deck of cards from Dollarama? $1. Wizards has got to pick a side and decide how they want this game to go. Which route do they want to take? A financial side, where they've got to support the financial side of the game and allow it to grow in an exponential fashion over the next decades? Or do they want the game to collapse in, become a very cheap and affordable game that anyone can play for $5-10 per deck, and have amazing, epic cards in there that have no secondary market value ever? This is where I think we find ourselves, at that crossroads. And depending on how this fireside chat is going, that is something they're going to have to discuss. By the way, Diamond Kaleidoscope. I just want to mention this for a little bit of fun. Forecasting costs, 3 to use it. Put a Prism token into play, treat it as a 0/1 artifact. I've been building a commander deck using that new Urza, who gives all the artifacts +2/+2 and stuff with other artifact generating guys. This is a fun card to add in there. And when I saw it was only like $1.99 a copy, I bought copies for $1 on TCG Player. I couldn't help myself. I decided I'm going to put that one in the video because it's been as high as like $15. It's lost 90% of its value. That's kind of nutty for a lot of players out there. Let's face it, it's a Visions card. It's not like it's Fallen Empires, but it's just one of those pretty cards I've always liked. Never really got enough use. Imagine it only costs 2 to use, though. It could be just a little bit better. Now, the last card I want to share here. Zeroing of the Claw. This is a card, it's reserve list. It's getting mixed with modern day dragons, which of course have no value because they keep getting reprinted. Everything from Tiamat to the Dragon, all coming around again. I look at this card. It was $40. It's been dropping ever since. The high it got to was $40. Back in, 2010, 2011, this card was a $3 card. Again, reserve list. The reserve list gives a certain stature. That stature is missing from any modern day card. And I understand they're not reserve list. But without some kind of backing, telling us where these cards stand, players are going to keep leaving. They're going to keep getting frustrated and upset that they spent hard-earned money and then the cards get reprinted too quickly. I'm not saying you shouldn't reprint them. There's got to be a schedule, a way of monitoring it. And I mean something open and about-faced. Hey, this card can't get printed until this time slot. This one, they've got to be more organized if they want to have a secondary market of MTG finance that is supported. And if they don't care, then don't give any kind of schedule. Let everything get reprinted, but lower the prices down to the appropriate level to let every player get in there and enjoy the game and expand that player base. That's where I stand on things. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Put those comments in the comment section. I want to know, because this video came out during the fireside chat. What do you guys think about what happened at the fireside chat? I'll probably have a secondary video coming out later in the day discussing it, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. Thanks again for being here. MTG Mox, man, I want to know what everyone's thinking about. I'll see you guys soon. It's another moment in time where I get to say thank you to all the fantastic people my patrons who support my channel each and every day. Guys, you're epic. You know it's true. I'll see you soon. You're here. Sorry about yesterday. Welcome back to the end of the credits. I think I was so tired I left out the end credit scene from yesterday. It was a mistake. It wasn't intentional, and I'm glad you all came back and made it to the end. So thanks for being here, guys. Looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. You can just say mistake in the comment section so I know that you know about the mistake from yesterday. It was an accident. I'll see you guys soon. We'll get to talk about a fireside chat before you know it.